YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another game of Interplanetary I Spy for all you space detectives out there and pareidolia police alike. Now today I'm going to go over a bunch of different missions and demonstrate that there are very similar things spotted by all the rovers and landers, probably in the last sort of 40 odd years on Mars. And I'm not going to go through all of them, I'm just going to go through some of them. I've got images from the InSight, which only landed a couple of weeks ago now, and I'm going right back to the Viking 1. Now Viking 1 was actually launched in 1975, landed in 76, and the mission carried on until 1982, so that was a long time ago. It wasn't the first thing to land on Mars, but it was the first really successful long-term lander that we had on the surface. The Russians had sent one earlier, but it failed. I think it only lasted about 14 seconds or 14 minutes or something. It didn't last very long at all. But this demonstrates not only are the images that we get now no better than the ones taken in the 1970s, but it also demonstrates that there are things by these landers and rovers that are very, very similar, even though the landers and rovers all landed in different parts or on different parts of Mars, okay? Now, as you can see here, we've got a map here showing the various different missions that have been sent to Mars, including the Phoenix right up here in the north, Viking 2 here, Viking 1 here, we're going to be looking at that, and then we've got Opportunity and Curiosity almost parallel here, and then Spirit further to the south, okay? Now InSight is kind of in between all of them here, and is almost due north of Curiosity here, which is in Gale Crater. And I did wonder whether it would be possible to find similar things near the other missions. Now, I've already done a lot of videos about the Opportunity rover and quite a few about Spirit as well. But most of mine so far have been on the Curiosity rover, and I have touched on the others. But I thought I'd try and prove a point here that the specimens that I'm finding in the Curiosity, Opportunity and Spirit images are also to be found near the InSight and Viking 1. I haven't gone into much detail with Viking 2 yet. I have looked at the Pathfinder images and found some interesting stuff, but nothing conclusive. And the same with Phoenix. The image quality is really quite poor on all of these images. And in fact, probably the best ones are from the Curiosity rover, which was sent up there 6 years ago, in fact. But they're only slightly better, and in fact, the InSight images are probably worse, even though it's a more recent mission. They're probably worse than the Curiosity images, and no better than the Viking images, which were from a lander that landed there in 76. So I shall demonstrate that now. What I did is I downloaded all the panoramics that the Viking took over its stay on Mars, and I found some interesting stuff. Now some of these are in colour and most of them are in black and white. Let's have a look at that one. Now what they've done here is they've stretched the image contrast to give it better definition, but what's happened here, because they've upped the contrast, most of the rocks have gone almost black, and it's almost impossible to see any detail with these actual rocks and potential specimens. Because basically what happens then, everything turns to like a dark shadow like we have up here. When you look at these rocks, they're just very, very dark grey and black. So the first thing you need to do with any images, and this is true as true now for Curiosity rover images or InSight images as it was back in the 1970s, you really have to brighten these images up to actually see the details in the shadow. And it's the details in the shadow that give us the shapes, and we can then determine what we're looking at, okay? Right, so basically, the most recent one I just did was this one. I'll show you that now. Now, this may be a bit hard to get your head around, but basically, this looks like a mummified cranium, or head, I should say. Now the image quality isn't very good, and what I've done is I've enlarged the image and I've enhanced this part of the image here, and I've added a colour filter to it to make it easier to see. but it's not the best example. It looks like a human head with a nose here and a mouth. If you look carefully, we have teeth here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth there. Got a mouth there. You've got a nose here. You've got a mummified eye, which still, even in the raw image, is bright. It's brighter than the rest of the thing here. And you've even got a spot here where the pupil would have been. Okay, very interesting. Now this may be 1 million years old. Couldn't tell you. I could not tell you how old this is. But when you look at the other things I found, now this is one I put up on Facebook just the other day. This one here. Now this is another example of a Viking image. This is not the same one as that. This is a slightly earlier image. There's only about 20 panoramics, I think, that were made of the Viking 1 images, 15 or so maybe, and they're all very dark like this, and most of them are in black and white. And you can see here, even in the black and white clip here, that there's an actual cranium in there. There's a specimen in there. Okay, you can actually see the eye socket, you can see teeth, you can see the chin sticking out in front of the shadow. So the way the light's caught it, you can actually see detail on the right side of the face here. And I did the same. I brightened it right up, and you can even see nasal cavities there, and you can see more teeth detail. You can see the other eye socket here. This looks damaged, but it's in heavy shadow. So this is a lesson in brightening images, really, and how to see into the shadows and see the shapes and what is normally hidden from us. There's another thing here. Another example of something that was almost completely blackened out with contrast and dark. But when you brighten it up, this is what you get. You get another cranium, another specimen. The nose, some rather oddly shaped teeth. You can see some detail there, but not a great deal. Because these images are old. They were taken 40 odd years ago now, 42 years ago, and nearly 43 years ago, and they're very dark. But you can see with some of these images that they're not that much worse than the ones we're getting now, which makes you wonder why they're still using these 1 megapixel low res cameras. Is it because they're more reliable? That's what we're told. They're resistant to extreme temperature changes. Now this may also be a specimen here. I mean, the thing to do with these images is to enlarge them and stuff them with pixels to get rid of the pixelation. Then you can see detail, and then brighten them right up. So there are things to be seen in these old images. You just got to treat them the same way as you do with the Curiosity images and later rover images as well. So there was the Viking. So there's a whole bunch of things I found in the Viking stuff I've got here. And what I've done is I've put a quick folder together just to show you the different missions and the similar things that have been found in very different parts of Mars, on very different parts of Mars. This is from Spirit. Now this was something that was found fairly recently. I don't know what the date is on this. Is there a date? Oh yeah, this was in June 2018. So this is the Spirit rover, and we have a very odd looking possible mummified specimen here, and another what looks like a skull here over to the left. Not very clear, but as I said, these images are also very dark, generally very dark, and are low res, 1 megapixel images. Now, the Spirit conked out many years ago now, and was launched at the same time as Opportunity. You've also got this weird thing here. Let's have a look at that. This looks like some kind of carving or something. Elongated head there. You can just about make out an eye there, one there, nose, mouth. Very interesting. And this has got teeth detail. It looks like it's been smashed in the side here. You've got 2 eye sockets. But often the eye sockets aren't very clear. because these things may be sort of fossilized and encased in kind of clay and mud and dust and dirt and everything else, and are not always immediately obvious. So you've really got to think out of the box a little bit. But this one was taken by opportunity. Now this is very clear. Here's the raw clip here on the right, and here is my enhanced clip on the left. PIA 20319. This is one of the clearest specimens you'll ever see from any of the Mars rovers or landers. And this is human, or at least partially human. Well, I say human loosely, you know, but these are humanoid features, although somewhat different. Very pronounced cheekbone, buck teeth, quite a flat nose, quite a deep set eye, small eye. You can even see the eye if you look carefully. Look at the raw image. I'll zoom in. There's the pupil. You can see the lighter part around it, just there. You can see it in the raw image, okay? That's a raw image taken by the Opportunity rover. So this stuff is there. I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of similar things. Here's one I found just the other day, and this is extremely clear. What else could it be? You've got a very, very straight and square jaw here. There isn't much teeth detail, but this looks mummified. It looks like it still has a bit of skin mummified onto the bone here, and you can just about make out some teeth contours showing through the skin, which you would get on a mummified specimen. You've got an eye here, you've got a nasal cavity there. The nose is kind of, looks like it's largely kind of rotted away, and we can see into the cavity there. And you've got a very brain-like structure to the skull here, to the actual back of the cranium. Very interesting. So that was really clear. In fact, it looks a bit clearer if you go back a little bit like that. I haven't shown it in any video before. That was an interesting one. Really defined square jaw, very, very unusual. So they're humanoids, but they're not quite human, I would say. Some of them look very, almost kind of reptilian. And some of them are very large. This was taken by the Opportunity rover again, and this is a pile of so-called rocks on the ridgeline, and there are a whole bunch of little fossils and weird things in this pile of rocks, and we have a very clear specimen here with the highlighted colorized version of it here. Okay. Now, you can see I haven't actually enhanced that very much at all. Basically, all I've done is cropped it out, enlarged it a little bit, brightened it right up, and added a colour filter just to make it stand out a bit more, okay? Because a lot of these images are black and white, and I mean, this image was taken, how long ago was this taken? Probably about 10 years ago. So that's not really old, that image. Then we have the Spirit rover. There's this one. This was found by Steve Bolden, very good researcher, and this is some kind of creature. I couldn't say what it is. It looks almost like a bear or some kind of animal. Don't know what sort of animal this is. It doesn't really conform exactly to anything we have here. It's a bit different, as you would expect, but you've got, even in the raw image here, if I zoom in a bit, you can see the eye sockets, the nose and the teeth here sticking down here. So I've really only just done the same here. I've brightened up the image considerably and added a colour filter just to make it stand out a bit better against the black and white image. Okay, there it is in situ, right by the actual rover wheels. And in fact, you can see where the rover is driven over this thing, and luckily the wheels went either side of it, so it's kind of driven this way and has looked back and taken a photo, and there it is. You can see the tracks either side. So luckily for us, the rover went over it but not into it. So that was interesting. Really interesting find that by Steve Bolden. That's from June this year. Okay, so there was that one. And we've got a whole bunch of them here. And what I'll do, I won't show you them all now because it would take too long. But there's this one that I think found by Terry Burnett. Amazing find, this one. This is a Curiosity Rover image. Now this was taken on Sol 78, so this was 6 years ago. Okay? 6 years back. This is really early on in the Curiosity mission in Gale Crater. And this mummy, or carving, or whatever it's supposed to be, is actually really quite small, and from here to here is only about 4 or 5 inches. And it looks like someone's sitting down. You can't see the legs. I think the legs are going underneath this thing here, perhaps, or hidden behind it. I don't know. You've got a very clear arm with fingers, a head with what looks like a ponytail, a nose sticking down. You've got an arm here, but this hand's broken off here. Let's get a bit closer. Okay, so there are mummies and specimens all over the place, and I do wonder why there are so many. I mean, they're everywhere. Once you start looking at these images, they're in all of them. All the missions are showing the similar things, and even this thing here, which is from the InSight, which was an image I put in a very recent video about a week ago. It looks like another cranium here with teeth. Got an eye there, an eye there, a nose here. Now there is. I'll try and dig up. There is a very similar thing that I spotted by the Curiosity Rover, and it looks like the same species. Now ignore this bit on the back. I think there's something stuck to the side of it here. So this may be 2 objects. This may be a cranium, and this may be an object kind of stuck to the side of it. Okay, so you often get things stuck together, or heavily damaged and broken, and they may have been sort of covered in clay, and the clay may have kind of solidified as well. There was a lot of water and mud in the area on Mars in these various areas, so there would have been clay and sediment everywhere, and when the water evaporated, probably very rapidly, would have left these things behind in the mud, which would have then solidified and then eventually kind of fossilized them, and then eventually eroded away, leaving them behind, like we have here. So we've got evidence for very similar things in all these missions. This is Curiosity Rover again. This is a recent find. Yeah. What else could it be? I mean, really, it's some kind of dinosauroid or dinosaur. And there isn't a great deal of detail. This is quite a long way off from the rover, but it's quite large. This thing's about 18 inches from here to here, about 1.5 feet. It's somewhere between 1 and 2 feet. I don't know exactly. I would say around 18 inches, but it could be as much as 20 inches or more. Okay, from here to here. And you've got a very long jaw with teeth here, with an eye socket, and even in the raw image, you can actually see eye detail just there. Okay, if you look carefully, you can see the teeth here. If you let your eyes adjust, you can see teeth. There's straight shadows coming down here, and you can see an eye. Okay, it's there. So this stuff is all there. I've been looking at some of the more recent InSight images that were taken just a day or 2 ago. Got a really good shot, selfie kind of shot here of the InSight lander. Nice dome on top there. You got the arm coming down. It's performing some kind of operation with the grappler here. It's about to lift this up, I think. I don't know what's going on there, but some sort of operation being performed. But if you look in the background, not only do we have this thing, which I showed in the previous image, which looks a bit like a dinosaur cranium here. It doesn't look very clear in this image, but this one down here interested me. But it's not very clear, so what I did is I did my usual technique of taking a clip and enlarging it and stuffing it with pixels. Now that kind of helps a bit, but these images are really poor. And in fact, I would say that the InSight images are possibly worse than the ones taken by Viking 1 in 1976. Why would that be? A lot of people have been complaining about the quality of these images. They are really awful. And this is a good example. Now this is right by the actual lander. You can see it here. You can see it's just here on this image. Let's go back to that one. And how far away is that? Not very far away, okay? a matter of a few feet away from the actual lander itself, just down here. So it's taking selfies, and even its selfie is kind of pixelated. If you zoom in just a little bit, you can see all this pixelation. And you look down here, I mean, this isn't very big, this is probably only a few inches across, okay? But as soon as you zoom in, it all just turns to crap, because basically it's only a 1 meg camera. Here's the enhanced version of that. I brightened it right up, as you can see, and added a bit of contrast. And there we have it. Now that is very odd. It's got this circular part to it, and it seems to have teeth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 teeth in a row, just here. And the back of what looks like a back of a cranium. I think there's possibly some heavy damage to the top here. Don't really know. But I would imagine this would have come round to here. And that may well be an eye socket there, and there may be another one on the other side that we can't see. So this may well be another specimen. So that was interesting. And I was looking into the shadows. Now, one thing you should always do when doing research and looking at rover and lander pics is look into the shadows, because often there's things hidden away that we never see. So all you need to do is download the image. These aren't very big. You've got this shadow here, okay? All you need to do is take a clip. There's the shadow. Let's brighten that up. And what do we have? We have this. 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth here. It looks like a mummified specimen. Now this was uncovered by the jet wash from the this is one of the jets here, this metal thing here. That is a rocket, a retro rocket, okay? Or landing rocket, whatever you want to call them. And as the lander came down, it's made a blast hole in the ground and blasted all the dust and dirt out, leaving the larger rocks behind, like a little kind of. You can see it better here. Show the larger one. This is kind of hollowed out slightly. So basically, all the dust and sand in the immediate area would have been blown away into a kind of dust cloud as the lander came down, and it's uncovered a whole bunch of rocks and what looked like possible specimens here, which were buried. Okay, so that's right underneath. Let's see if I can find you a here we are. It's another shot here. This one's not so dark. You can see the shock absorbers here. there's the rockets there. Look, the rocket kind of blasters there, whatever you want to call them. And as it probably came slightly sideways. It wouldn't have come straight down. But what they tend to do is they come straight down, and then as they get near the ground, they sort of, I think, basically adjust slightly side to side until they land flat. So there's the little divot there, which was all blasted out. So all this sand here has all been removed. You can see the regolith underneath. It looks like concrete almost. Very dense, sort of rocky ground here. So you can see the actual rock underneath where it's been exposed by the blast from the rockets there, okay? So there's stuff to be found, even though this thing has only been up there about a week or so. You can see it there better. If I zoom in a bit, you can see it. Let your eyes adjust. See, there's one hole there, and there's another hole there, near these two. Okay, so it's blasted all the sand out, and it's left the larger rocks behind. And we may, if we get some other angles, might get some more specimens over here, perhaps. Hidden in these shadows over here. But we can't really see much at the moment. It really depends on the angle of the camera. I mean, the camera is on an arm, so the arm can actually move around and take shots from all different angles, and we should get loads more images of the actual lander and the immediate topography underneath it and around it and everything else. So that's interesting. Let's look at this one again. This is from the InSight. Go back a little bit. Ignore this square part here. Just look at this part of the image here. This is InSight. And this is Curiosity Rover. Look at it. very similar. We've got that similar kind of squarish facial shape, like a puggish kind of dog-like creature. This isn't very clear. This is tiny. This is probably only a couple of centimetres across, this thing. It's really small, maybe an inch or two. But this is in Gale Crater, thousands, probably not thousands, probably about 400 or 500 miles south of where the InSight lander is. We have a very similar specimen, or possible specimen, okay? Let's go back to that one again. Very similar. You've got that sort of shape to the forehead, which is almost flat. The eyes are very far apart. A little puggish-like nose and teeth sticking out. Okay, so very similar. Let's go back to that one again. Okay, look at the similarities. Are they the same species? Could be. I mean, basically, we've got multiple missions here, and we've got craniums and specimens in each mission. We've got going back. We got Viking, we've got Spirit, we've got Opportunity, we've got Curiosity, and now InSight. And I haven't even really gone through all the Phoenix and other mission images yet. I will do, and see if I can confirm yet even more. Now, I've today only shown you a handful of pictures on my channel. I'd like to welcome all the new subscribers, by the way, because a lot of people have been coming on board in the last few days, last week or so, and I'm now over 30,000 subscribers. So thank you for coming on board, and many thanks to all my older subscribers who've been with me for years, many of you. So I really do appreciate your support. And there we have it. I mean, this is just a small selection of what I have on my channel. I have hundreds and hundreds of such things. And as I've demonstrated today, I mean, this one here, this is the Opportunity again. This is like a reptoid head or some kind of reptilian. Very strange. I mean, it can be demonstrated that there are specimens all over Mars. Okay? And basically, as I showed earlier, they're quite far apart, these missions. Mars isn't as big as Earth, but these are thousands of miles apart. The InSight and Curiosity are relatively close. They're quite well spread out, and I'm finding similar things in all of these images. Near the equator, the equatorial region here, which is where most of these are, there seems to be evidence of life, or at least evidence of death, all over the place. So there we have it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll put a few clips in at the end. Sorry that was a bit long, but I'm trying to get across a concept here that these things can be seen all over Mars, not just in Gale Crater. Okay? Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.